whenever getting details, not call them directly and
And we're not going to use it. We were just hoping to use it as a template to go off of, but I'm sure that not all of you, or maybe all of you have read, I don't know if you read it from page to page, have you? No? So then she was gonna get some printed, but they didn't get them done. But one thing is that there has never been a weapons code here, so it doesn't necessarily, we've never adopted South Dakota, we've never adopted anyone. So in the benefit of our government is what we need to have input is how we should draft one that works for us. Tennille's the chairwoman of Judiciary. I'm a member of the Judiciary Committee. And so we want to take notes from everybody on how it would benefit us to have a weapons code. And unfortunately, that code is way left, and we need to have something that fits us. So we would like some really good comments, so what we need to develop for ourselves. I read it myself and I just said, my God, what is this? And so I'm thankful at least to a lot of the people here that are gun lovers and enthusiasts, you can help us be the ones that are gonna help us continue to build one. And I hope we can take your notes and figure out what we need. She'll be right back. I don't know what they're doing now.
Wayne, while she's gone, when you say everything is where you're at, can you explain some of that to us for a little bit?
Well, if you read the
it doesn't leave.
If you read the document, it's like really, really strict.
Yeah.
Too strict. I think
It doesn't give any exceptions for law enforcement either.
I think we probably jumped the gun. I don't know. Wayne explained to everybody, but by no means are anybody going to take your guns or anything like that. There's really no law in place. The laws that are in place are really minimal. There does need to be something in place, but we're not New York State or California, and this document looks like it was kind of copied from New York or California. So I think after the meeting today, Wayne and them will take some of the comments and we'll have a working group and downsize. A lot of that needs to be taken out of there, but there will be public hearings after that's done.
Yeah, we're gonna probably have 2 or 3.
Downsize it. But
we're not here to adopt the code that was printed, I guess.
Thank you.
Who read some of it? What?
I went through it pretty quick and I'm against it.
Didn't even happen.
I think the way it sits, I think every gun lover is against it, and I don't agree with it either. But one thing I will say is the people that have guns and are using them the wrong way are usually messed up with drugs or some type of crime. At law enforcement, most of the guns that we get are stolen. They're not even from around here. But keep in mind that we have a job to do too, and this is the start of meth-infected people dictating to the good citizens or good owners of firearms on what we can and can't do. So keep that in mind on what we have to do in law enforcement. There has to be something a little bit more extensive than what we have right now, and that's what these guys are shooting for. It's not to take the good citizens, the ones that obey the law. I have a lot of guns, and I don't want anybody coming and trying to make me give up my firearms either, because I follow the law. I have a right to protect my home, and if we start going down a road like this, it's going to get to the point where just those people that are causing all the problems and getting us to this state are going to be the only ones that are going to be free carrying. And it's not going to stop them from bringing them in. They're going to have them. They have them now. The guns that they carry are usually all stolen from somewhere and they don't care. So,
Yeah, I think this was hastily, developed. I don't know what the urgency is, maybe a distraction from what else is going on up here. But, it is. It's taking our guns, it's taking,
yeah,
I have
that's not
some.
the intent.
And they should have looked at it before they forwarded it, that tribal council, like I said down there. Anyway, right off the bat, it talks about statistics really, and I hope those are provided. And saying,
How far back do you want statistics?
well, I just like to see how much crime and guns are involved, things like that. That's what you guys are stating right off the bat there. And we should have that as documentation. And I'm not against the whole thing, I know law enforcement needs that kind of stuff to support them, but it wasn't looked at all, I don't believe. And then every section, I believe, I was looking through it pretty quick here. It says if it's confiscated, then it can be kept by or retained by law enforcement. Why would we let them keep it if it's illegal? It should just say destroyed. Then it all says, every one I wrote, it says that no charges will be filed. I think you need to file charges so it's documented, so we have supporting documentation. We don't want to burn the court, but we want to take our guns and give them to the officers. And it's okay. That's the way I read it.
We don't have room for any more guns anyway, we're fully loaded. I mean,
We had trouble when I was here on council, items, I guess, what do you call it, evidence disappeared. This is kind of making it illegal. If you take my gun and say, oh, it wasn't an offense, but you can keep it up there and one of the officers can take it home. That's what it says to me, and I don't agree with that. It has to be destroyed and charges filed. Anyway, thank you.
hey, one good positive thing about this document is it gave us a good audience.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are all gonna be here and give your thoughts and all of that. How many of you guys read it?
I've read parts of it. Not where it got stressful.
I didn't read the whole thing either. It's just too long and kind of sickening, really. But it's just more a talking point today, and like I said, nobody's guns are going to get taken away, and hopefully we can come out of here or come out of the next few meetings with a little better enhanced law. I think that's the direction that we need to go.
Can I ask you a question? On the, like, if you get caught doing a breaking and entering or something, you're on meth and you have a gun, what is the regulation that they have right now that they would be in trouble
So if
for?
you're a user in possession, that's a federal offense, and usually the gun will go and get fingerprints off of it or DNA. It'll get sent up to ATF. Over time, we'll get it back.
That's one of the things that I wanted to talk about is like the federal offense. There's a huge loophole in the federal system when we identify a drug user in possession of a firearm. There has to be a pattern when we identify that. So they want a positive drug test within 1 year, 3 previous convictions. So that's the federal system. This would work good for us locally if we would say, you know what? If you have a positive UA, you have methamphetamine on you in your system, then we're gonna add that to our offenses. That would close that loophole. That's one of the loopholes that I've identified.
Yes.
I've owned guns all my life. That doesn't make me a gun lover. Okay, I just don't want to turn this into an emotional thing. Okay, I have hammers and screwdrivers and pliers and guns. All right, that doesn't make me a pliers and screwdriver lover and a gun lover. All right, it's not an emotional thing. I just have guns all my life because, you know, I enjoyed it. I do a lot of walking out in the woods, you know. And I carry them out there and do a little target practice, you know, and I bought guns and, you know, whatever. The U.S. Supreme Court has affirmed by the Second Amendment that people can own guns for their own defense. That's the bottom line. Any law that is passed by a governmental group, if we own guns, that law is going to make us criminals immediately. It's not going to do anything to the criminals. You guys already said that. They don't, criminals don't care about laws. They'll get their guns and kill people and do whatever they want. There's the old slogan, guns don't kill people. People kill people. If you want to make a bunch of laws about guns because in your mind they're the ones, it's the guns that kill people, you need to make a bunch of laws on those little blades that doctors use to operate on people. Those things are killing thousands and thousands of human beings. Way more than guns are killing human beings. Scalpels, I think they call them. You need to make a bunch of law about scalpels. Who should have it, who should touch it, whatever. Again, guns don't kill people. People kill people. Now, I'm not emotional about it because I've always had those, and you know, whether I have them or not doesn't make any difference, but if I have one, you're going to make me a criminal if you pass a law that's drafted by whoever drafted it. So, I don't want to get carried away, so I just want to say that much, at least at the beginning, and if I need to comment more, I'll certainly do that. Pilama out there, you have some thoughts, David.
I love my guns.
All names.
They all got nicknames.
Hey, Steve, whose job is that?
I don't remember her name. She worked in the Attorney General's office.
Victoria Bannon, oh bad.
She's a juvenile prosecutor.
Yes.
That's the one that was. So initially we sat down with her, law enforcement. The document was a lot smaller and a lot different. And then this one just kind of came out of the blue. I don't know where it came from, but it's not the document we worked on. So, but it needs to be discussed. Statistically here, I guess the biggest death threat we have, and we talked about it this morning, is drunk drivers. But, I mean, Judiciary Committee should probably take note of that also, because we have the lowest BAC level in the United States. So, I mean, that's a law that we need to take a look at also, and it doesn't even include juveniles, where everywhere else is no tolerance, but if the juvenile stopped here and is a .90, they're still not a DUI. It could be a underage or whatever, but that's just something for judiciary to think about, and that's one stat that stuck out in our mind this morning when we were discussing this. But you know, there needs to be things in place pertaining to drugs and firearms. They're getting younger and younger, guys. I mean, like really young. And it affects every single community, not just the big communities or the surrounding communities. It affects young, it affects old, grandmas, grandpas, moms, dads, children. I mean, it's a ripple effect in our nation that has an effect on every single tribal member directly or indirectly. And this is a tough, sensitive issue to discuss. But there needs to be some laws put in place for us to follow at law enforcement. And I hope that's what we get out of it, not take people's guns or, I mean, I don't want to see that. I don't want it to happen to me, and I know these guys, I mean, Wayne's a hunter, and you know, we all are.
I'll be public gun lover.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have no qualms about being a gun lover or being called a gun lover, because I am. I mean, I have a lot of guns, and by no shape, way, or form, I don't want that jeopardized in any kind of way. I got all kinds of stuff that's listed in there that prohibits. According to that document, they want us to shoot single shots or muzzle loaders, and I mean, you're not going to get that. You're going to get more backlash than anything from the public, and that's why you all are here. So in a way, it's good, but how did you want to proceed with it, Tennille? You want to wait for documents to come, or go through it page by page?
I handed out the ordinance, and so I don't know if you guys want more copies, but we also have it pulled up here. If you want to go through it, or if you have specific areas that you want to look at. None of this is set in stone. It's just something that we're bringing forward to get the conversation started. This is just a hearing to hear what you have to say, and then we'll take all of that, compile it, and then work on this. It's not set in stone.
Is this posted somewhere public for the public to see it?
We
And get
sent it
input,
out.
because the only thing I saw was the little bit put on Facebook. I didn't see nothing in the newspaper or anything about.
Actual tribal.
We try to get it out to as many places as possible, so like Yamaha, try to get it on the radio, try to get it
Put your name on there.
Facebook.
You're here.
Just
I mean, this
wherever we
document.
can. Yeah, so basically I can email it to all of you. We have the sign-in sheet,
Okay.
and I can email this out
Okay,
so
'cause
that
it's a
you.
lot to read, so.
It is a lot to read, and that's why we don't want to do so much paper,
Yeah.
because it's such a large document.
Okay.
But this is just to hear what you have to say, if you got a chance to go through it.
over here, guys.
And, yeah, we can go through it, and you can point out certain areas that you just don't feel are okay. And, what's her name, Victoria? Right?
I don't know.
Vicky? I think her name is Vicky, I'm terrible with names. She has a hearing at 1, and so she'll be here at 2, but she drafted this, and she can go more in depth with you about kind of where she was going with this. But this is just to start the conversation now.
She may have just tried to cover every area, so when it is discussed, it can get discussed before it's passed. That, she may have done that, I don't know.
Yeah, but she'll be here at 2.
Like things that just for me that I don't want, and I would say that I want them included in our code as a tribe, is that I would like to make sure we still have concealed carry. I would like to still see that the public has access to any long gun or short gun, no definition by carrying capacity. I still want us to have access to high capacity mags, whatever definition you want to call from 1 to 100, whatever. I would like to see that semi-automatic, obviously. But the other things is that I think that we should still have access to taser, both types of tasers. When you start looking at the reason why we really need something too is we have no way of issuing you a card so that you are able to carry on Rosebud, and we have not acknowledged whether or not there's reciprocity. Somebody else might say we want reciprocity and just adopt the state code and knock out the enhanced gold, and we just want the concealed carry. You know, someone might say that. So that's something that we can put down. Another person might end up saying, I only want musket. I don't want, I think this one even says pistol of 5-round capacity, unless you're carrying a captain's special. I mean, almost all revolvers carry 6. So, you know, that's something we need to have public input on, to say what we want. Those are all those things like myself that I'm taking notes to add into the document. So is there anything specific that somebody may know that they think, you guys think works good? Some state side, federal side, Nebraska, Iowa? That's what I know.
What we just talked about, the juveniles being used, like in New York City, they're using the juveniles because they are starting to crack down on the adults that break the law, so they're starting to recruit juveniles to do the same burglaries and everything else, and then they don't get in trouble. That's another thing that, where juveniles are getting away, that's on the news all the time, but they're recruiting juveniles even to run people on the border. They're recruiting 15, 16-year-old kids that are stealing mom, dad's car and transporting people and getting $3,000 a person to transport them. But they're using juveniles because they don't get in trouble.
Well, you'd be surprised what goes on here.
Yeah, I mean,
Not just anywhere, I mean, we have the same problems here.
but I mean, that's the thing, I agree with you.
You just don't market it on the news the way everywhere else does. If you did, it would probably scare the piss out of everybody.
Does anybody have anything that you want included directly?
Yeah,
So
I
it's
do.
not overlooked?
I do. Is somebody taking notes on this stuff? I got a lot of questions. Veterans groups, use semi-automatic. Maybe, is there gonna be an exception in the code for that?
Protect veterans.
Can you tell them your name and stuff? Since
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Carol Gray.
Protect veterans' rights to carry.
Yeah, when we do our graveside ceremonies, we use semi-autos. I mean, there have the adapter in it to just fire blanks, but still, according to what I read on Facebook, those could be taken away too. So,
Semi-autos.
yeah, yeah. And then another question I had was, you know, what if you had some guns inherited to you? So, I mean, this is just stuff to maybe think about when it's being rewritten or something.
No, we don't have much else, that's why we're asking for an email. This is only public hearing.
Okay. That's fine. Yep, I got it.
It's right here.
I can email. all of
And
this
then
to-
like with the state, to get your concealed permit, if there's to follow a guideline like that, or maybe have them registered here on the reservation too, for,
That's what it has to be. We
Yeah.
have to know.
yeah.
The reciprocity from the
I don't know if
state.
the tribe will have a separate registration for
It
gun
would have
owners
to
or.
be, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That you get your own card, let's see, try concealed carry.
okay. Yeah, but this.
But you're not opposed to that?
Yeah,
You're not opposed to having a road suit try concealed carry permit?
no. Because if we went through the whole procedure to get it through the state, I mean, I think there should be no problem for,
Right.
on the reservation. And then, I had a question on the notification of this, and since it's gonna affect so many people, does this just go through council, or is there gonna be a public vote on it?
No, this is a hearing to get input. Once something is established, they'll set up a public hearing.
A real public hearing to go over just the final document.
Oh, okay.
Anything else that you would like included in Rosebud's?
Not right now, I'm sure more questions will come up, but.
My name is Chase Warner from Grass Mountain Community. I would like to see a couple of, one is if you're mentally dangerous, don't have a gun. if you domesticated your spouse or husband, but those are already laws the state of South Dakota has. What I'm just gonna bring up is historical. This sign here was bought at one of our local gun stores in Valentine. This has been done before. Not by the tribe government, by the federal government. Move to the reservation, turn in your guns, we protect you. My ancestors in Pine Ridge are laying in graves because they turned in guns and were wiped out by the same government said, turn them in. Even the white people in the surrounding towns hang these up to remind themselves what happens when a government wants to take away those rights. I'm for sensible gun laws. The crazy should not have guns. The domestic violence people should not have guns. The druggies should not have guns. But what that is just a nightmare. So I'm a law-abiding citizen. I have my next check done every time. They know every bit of information about us. Federal background check basis. And this law doesn't allow him, who's carrying him by him as a law enforcement officer, to carry his own gun in these council chambers, or issue weapon, or any of our law enforcement. I have friends and family that are law enforcement. This is going to endanger them. Are the feds going to come down and help the cops confiscate all this stuff? It would take a small army to do it. That's why the federal government hasn't done it to their own people. Because this is dangerous. This is, in other countries, lesser developed than the United States. This starts civil war. This starts actual wars between its own people. Nothing like this, nothing like that should ever exist. It's dangerous. It'll get people hurt.
So you bring up a really good point that we discussed amongst ourselves, and Bob, you want to kind of talk about that, or Ivor, if you want me to, I can, on the domestic abuse, restraining orders, protection orders, mentally incapable. We do have a program that was put in place that goes nationwide, the TAPS program, and it was brought here with violence against women and Tallulah. That system we utilized, but the hang-up was the tribal council at that time couldn't determine what they wanted to place in that to share in the system. So right now, you could get busted for drugs or domestic violence here. As soon as you get out of jail, go to Winter or Valentine and go purchase a gun because there's no record. But this system, once your name is entered in there, it's going to come up on your background check. Am I correct, Bob?
Yeah, yes.
So, I mean, there's some work that we need to do, and that would stop a lot of the people who commit crimes from having those guns. But those are touchy situations too. I've seen the tribal government try to go after people with domestic abuses and stop their hunting rights, and it turned into a big political mess. So once that's placed in the ordinance, or the tribal council gives the authority on which things they want to put into the tax system, then that's going to enhance better for law enforcement or anybody who can purchase a gun off of the reservation. So we don't have that right now.
Mr. Storman, just so I can clarify, you agree to keep like a DV and mental handicap and violent offender rule like the state and fed, keep the exemption for law enforcement usage so that they don't have to, like in this one, it was kind of hilarious, like cops would end up having to go back to Billy Close and 5 round 38s. I mean, and they couldn't even carry their shotgun or AR as backup. Go ahead, Chad.
Well, I'm not very good at public speaking, but I prepared a little speech for what I thought was going to be a hearing kind of thing, like people stand up and speak to the Here's what I got. My name is Chance Goodknife. I'm a member of the Rosebud Sioux tribe. Some of you that don't know me. We're proud people, but the only race in the United States, or maybe the entire world, that has to prove our existence by a percentage to the government. Some versions of our history say we are a conquered people. Our ancestors sacrificed their way of life. innocent people and warriors died, but ultimately we weren't defeated. We negotiated peace terms. We protected our nation with arms, and the U.S. government would never, ever bat an eye at us otherwise. We proved our strength, and afterwards, our words followed. Our Sioux Nation will never be allowed to have an army ever again, but we still have the right to defend our own lives, families, and communities as a citizen. A lot of my colleagues, friends, family reached out and argued that this weapons control law that was proposed was a violation of the Second Amendment. But guess what, everybody? Some portions of the U.S. Constitution do not apply to us. Well, some do, but the Second Amendment isn't guaranteed in Indian country. We are a sovereign nation, we have our own Constitution, and the U.S. Supreme Court can't protect our right to bear arms. So we're in a unique position as citizens of the Rosebud Sioux tribe. We need to preserve what little rights we have. You know, I'm kind of ashamed to endure this age of trying to claim the title of the most offended victim. You know, that's the last few years, that's what we've been living in. And that's why I object to the language in this proposed legislation. It seems to me like you're trying to force some dog turds down our mouth without any mustard. We do need changes in our weapon ordinance, but not like this. So, things I'm opposed to in this legislation are the assault weapons ban, the tasers, the large magazine ban. This thing says we need 10 rounds in our guns. Suppressor ban. The tribe does have a suppressor ban right now, but I'm not sure. I think there are exceptions for ATF to inform people who apply federally. In this law, there was a gun registration for owners of semi-automatic rifles. If you want to keep them, you'd have to register them. There's gun registration via concealed carry permit. It's kind of a weird, the way they propose it is weird. We'll give you a concealed carry permit, but you gotta get a permit for every gun that you might carry. Some people have several different guns. Those gun that fit in your pocket, gun that fit in your side, you'd have to pay $100 each time to get a concealed carry permit. You know, I'm all for a concealed carry permit, you know. I'm a enhanced firearms person. You know, I can carry legally in, I think, 43 some states. And I think the tribe needs to have some reciprocity to honor that kind of stuff, you know. Don't make you a criminal right away. Yeah, including this legislation, there's no reciprocity for anything like that. And there's no exceptions for or protected language for the use of weapons for self-defense. There are some provisions in there where if you point a gun at somebody or you're really felon, it's not really a felony, they were just somewhere else, someplace else, you know. So if someone come into your house and you point a gun at them, you're gonna be in trouble. Because, oh, they find you left, but you didn't hurt them. You're gonna tell, oh, they pulled a gun on me, and you're gonna be in trouble. So, in closing, I hope the body tries to weigh the consequences of removing rights our ancestors fought for. Maybe this body could further define our right to stand our grounds and help us protect our people.
Thank you. Do we have it for record?
Yeah.
Thank you.
1995.
That's exactly, you know, so Chance, I wanted to make sure and add that on there. I think that'd be a great thing that we try to even add in here to move ahead in the future, is that reciprocity and start talks with federally, because that's what we can do as federal legislators. And we can start getting that added in, that we have those rights to start looking at concealed carry and getting them acknowledged in the regular
You're going to consider weapons permit?
enhanced carry, and try to get some sort of those agreements with like ATF and DOJ. I think that'd be really a great idea. Start moving ahead. Bob?
Oh, Linda had her hand up too.
Oh, Linda?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, tissues. Okay.
I respect my elders.
Elders.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Melinda. I'm a tribal member. My main concern is, the response time from the police. What if we get broke into? What are we going to use to protect ourselves? I got elders that they pick their rocks while they're sleeping. And then you're going to take this away. I can understand the semi-automatics. That's dangerous. But we should be able to carry, our personal gun to protect ourselves. Tasers. I know the tasers can't probably knock them down on the ground for the ones that are high on drugs, but, at least it'll give you a chance to run away. I disagree with the tasers. I think we should keep them. The semi-automatics, I agree with that one. But are you going to be coming back to the communities and explaining it to all the tribal members at their communities? Are you going to attend each community?
This is only a working group.
Yeah, that's what I said. Are you going to, but once you get started, you're going to go reach out to the communities?
That's also why we want everybody to have their email if possible, so we can email you documents like consistently.
Okay.
This is not one and done.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just asking to kick it back to the communities and let the communities give it input, because there's a lot of people are asking. And I know community did set up a special meeting next week to discuss that, because that is the big concern in the community. They're scared. What are we going to do to protect ourselves? But that's just my comment, to kick it back to the communities for more input. A lot of them can't make it here because no transportation. We need to take that in consideration as far as maybe the multi-purpose, somewhere bigger, in each community, so we can all get together and give our input on the situations that do arise in the communities. Thank you. Melinda, just to clarify, this is the first time we've ever gotten this much, interest. I mean, we just had a hearing and nobody showed up. And so we're not used to taking stuff back to communities. What we do is we set up a time frame after these, and you call in with your personal comment, and Kateri Fields and Water, she's gonna be taking that comment. And so that's how it is after every hearing. You're welcome to call in, and you don't have to show up. So, but this is the first time we've gotten this much response.
Bob?
For those of you guys that don't understand German, my name is Robert Bradley. I'm from the town of White River. And I just heard about this roundtable discussion that they're going to have regarding gun ordinance. Or, in fact, some told me gun takeaways. I don't know if they're true or not, but that's why I'm on a fact-finding mission. My car's still sitting out here smoking because I spent down there. But the concern that I have regarding the weapons, the gun's only dangerous for the man that's behind that gun. So, in this discussion, how are you going to keep the guns away from the criminals? And I agree with the gentleman here. Lakota, we're strong when we're able to defend ourselves. You take our weapons away, you're going to weaken us. You're going to conquer us. No, somebody is telling me you got to pay a hefty amount of money just to keep a gun with you. And I'm going to admit I have a gun. I have a semi-automatic at home. I carry with me in my car for my protection, because when I was sitting on this table, I got threatened 4 times. I brought a picture with me of someone trying to break into my house while I was in that house. There's an older gentleman that lived up the road from me. Some zombie broke into his house, and when they caught him, he had a hammer, duct tape, butcher knife, and a vice grip. And you don't have that kind of equipment to go visit somebody Only if you're going there to visit with the wrong intent. And luckily, they caught this man. You never know if that, my older gentleman friend would have been still alive today. If that wasn't, if that didn't turn out the way it did. So if this aim of this ordinance is to take away my guns, you guys are gonna have a fight. I'm not gonna give up my guns so easily, unless I could get guaranteed protection from you guys. No knock to the police department, but when you call the police department, it takes a long time to get there, sometimes not at all. When you've got 2 or 3 police officers covering this big old reservation, you're not gonna get answered in a timely manner. So I gotta have a means to protect myself. I have every right to protect myself. Especially with these meth-crazed individuals roaming around on our communities. They sleep all day and they're just like bats, they roam around all night. I work hard during the day and I need my sleep at night, but sometimes I can't sleep because when I hear a dog bark, I have to get up. I'm on a fixed income. I can't afford to be paying $100 to you guys every 6 months just to carry my firearm for protection. Walkie conditioning. So let's go catch the omek off the head just a little cheap. I want to know how you guys are going to help me protect myself. Back in my younger days, I used to be able to protect myself, but now I can't. I'm an older gentleman now. I don't know about the gentleman, but I'm old. So if you guys break into my house, you stump my head, you probably knock me out. But you know what? I got that gun to protect myself. I have every reasonable right. I see a lot of veterans in here. They fought wars to protect that right. And now if the intent is to take that gun away, I think that's a bunch of crap, as far as I'm concerned. The only way you guys are going to take my guns is if you guys assure me that I'm going to be protected. That's not right, what about these hunters that carry these semi-automatics for hunting pheasants? Are you going to take them away? Or are you going to throw them in jail for carrying a semi-auto? There's a lot of things. What I recommend is that you guys make copies of these and give them to their reps and take them back to the community and have a discussion over there so people have questions they could call and answer you guys. Right now, the way we're working is we're pushing that cart in front of that horse. The power belongs to the people, not this table here. We have to go. You guys have to do what the people tell you to do. Well, after you guys, whether you like it or not, you guys have to follow suit. But I agree with the gentleman 100%. You take that weapon away, and only the criminals are going to have that weapon. How are you going to make them pay $100 for carrying a weapon around? How are you going to make them carry concealed weapons permit? They're carrying guns without any kind of regulations, no kind of permits, and yet, as law-abiding citizens, you guys are making us jump through all kinds of loopholes just to protect ourselves. We're going backwards, people. Hey, Chidushni.
Oh.
Hey, you must be in Chahal, Takuku Kavish is the Wagla coming up, Umaka Kapsni, what you're going to know. Heads of Yakia. Then I couldn't let you write a comment or after his Hokia who not with a cop. If you guys don't understand what I said, that's tough luck. Let not Lakota Misha, you all the Lakota keep talking. I got sneak up Shimata with Chacha Yasko. Bring the translator next time, you guys don't understand me. I'll head you to a low.
So on to one of the other questions, because this is not an adoptable document, everybody in the room. So one thing that he brought up too is another one, or two things. What do you see, because we don't have to adopt the state specific either, but what is a cost for a permit that you would like to see? Because that's not what, we're not looking at $100. That's just a possibility. $10,
I would pay
$20.
$50 food stamps.
Like a state is $10.
10?
10.
Sorry?
I got a comment.
On that or?
No.
Okay.
Good enough.
10 kind of something we could work on?
I'd say the fees paid, once you pay for your travel ID, consider that the fee paid.
Or
Or if you pass the background. I mean, so
Just let them register.
Good enough to pass the background, you can be able to carry concealed weapons.
Is your guys' time frame? Is your guys' time frame March 10th? Because I know that's Lloyd's
No.
last day of working for our tribe.
That's why we're having this hearing, so that way we can give him the feedback and he can work on the document. 'cause
do
he's
another draft. And then
Yeah, he's
I'll
leaving
keep
us and
amending.
that's why we're having this hearing.
It's a long.
We're gonna have multiple meetings. This is not gonna be a one and done.
Yep.
We're talking months. Mr. Black. Jones?
Just a quick history, all right, that's all. 3 things, that's all I want to say. Number 1, I bought a gun back in '67. First gun I ever owned. I went to Rap Valentine and bought it and brought it back. I wanted to be under the law, so I went to the police department and the tribe here and asked for a permit. And I found out I had to register that gun. At that time, nobody in the entire United States registered guns. You can buy guns, nobody registered them. The tribe, which got their law from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, including the tribal constitution and bylaws, and the penal code, required people who own handguns on the reservation to register that gun. So I registered it. That was my first gun. I was trying to go by the law. Found out later that nobody registers in the, in fact, that's one of the biggest battles that took place, every place in the United States. Gun owners did not have to register their guns, whereas on the Rosebud Reservation, we were forced to register our guns. If you own a gun, you have to register. 1 year later, after that, 1968, is when they passed the gun laws. The Gun Control Act of 1968. That passed. At that point, I cannot go into Valentine and buy a handgun. I cannot cross state lines with a handgun. In 1980, I was roaming around in the woods, carrying my gun. I came back and there was a bunch of excitement at the house, my mother-in-law's house. So I went over there to find out what was going on. I put my gun away. I went over there. They told me, it happened before I got there, they told me that this white kid from Kilgore, Nebraska, came into the reservation. He was looking for his dog. And apparently he came to my mother-in-law's house somewhere and it was laying by the fence over there. So he drove up to the house, got his .44 Magnum, went to the door and opened it without even knocking. My mother-in-law was sitting there, my wife was sitting there with our baby. He went in there, opened the door slightly, and pointed that gun right at my wife and threatened to shoot her. My brother-in-law was standing holding the door. He was a cop at the time, Ivor Coigle Jr. He knew what kind of gun that was that he was holding on my wife, .44 Magnum. My mother-in-law stood up and they started all walking towards him. So he cooled down, put his gun down, and they walked him out the door. He went over to the house next door and he was shooting prairie dogs with a rifle. And apparently one of the cops was there to investigate. Apparently that was his friend, the cop. And this white kid was telling that cop that that gun was a starting pistol or a track meet. My brother-in-law told me that's a .44 Magnum. I could have grabbed my gun and went over there and shot the guy. I did. I thought that because of the Gun Control Act of 1968, I thought the cops were going to handle it. They let him go scot-free. They gave him his rifle, they gave him everything. Let him go. Gun Control Act says you cannot cross the state line with a handgun with the intention of shooting somebody. Had no effect. So when they set up our government, the federal government imposed a lot of things on us, on our government, that were oppressive. Oppressive. One of those was, like the gentleman said, we could not have guns on our own reservation. So history. I don't know what, I don't know what, again, you can pile books and books of laws on a gun. South Dakota, you can go there and buy a gun, any place. You can even carry it around. Yeah, like these gentlemen are saying, I think you need to put, so-called gun lovers and gun haters equally, and let them talk about it here, if you want to pass laws. Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Hey, my name is Darryl Jones. I'm from Soldier Creek community. But I was just looking through this real quick, and it sounds like, geez, somebody wants control really bad, I mean, over everybody. That's what it sounds like, according to some of this, because you can't even carry a machete. You can't even carry a machete. I mean, you get stopped. They find a machete in the back of your car. You're going to jail just for a machete. That's control. So they're not letting you have anything. And all these guys, you know what? They have the right to carry those guns. If they want to carry a 50 cal in the back of their truck, that's them. They have the right to do that. They're not using it for intent to go out and commit a crime. Maybe that's the safest place for it. Instead of at home getting broken into and somebody else stealing it and going using it for intent. But it sounds like control. That's what it sounds like. Somebody wants control of tribal members. And everybody, tribal members, shouldn't even have to pay a fee to carry a gun. They shouldn't have to. If you, just like this guy said over here, you get passed by the state, you're already paying to the state. Then why come back and pay again to the tribe? When they already charge you for a tribal ID, But it sounds like control. That's what it sounds like. And we, as tribal members, as everybody, as veterans, they can't control us. They shouldn't have no control over us. They shouldn't have control over anybody, over what kind of weapon they carry, no matter what it is. So, but I was reading some of this, and boy, man, the wording in this is something else. It's control. Because like I said, you can't even carry a machete. You're going to jail. You're going to get put on this list. So if you do go somewhere to winter and try to purchase a gun, you're on the list because you got charged for carrying a machete. So that's going to ruin your opportunity as a tribal member and as in good faith to purchase a gun, because that machete charge caught up to you. So, you know what? I mean, you guys got a lot of work to do. That is true. You have a lot of work to do, and you're gonna get a lot of backlash on this.
Real quick, because there is like in other places and stuff, regulation on blade length of different things. Would you like no blade length for clarification?
That would be great.
Okay.
Because I carry a machete, because you don't never know what's gonna happen from day to day. Look at all over the world what's happening right now. Look what's happening. You have police doing things to people. That's the big issue, is what the police are doing to citizens of this country.
Well, if you walk into trees, you might need a clear path.
Oh yeah, there you go. You know, I mean, I know that's what I'm gonna use that machete for, you know, to clear a path.
You go harvest the wood, you know, you're gonna be out in the sticks.
This guy might wanna carry his gun to go walk in the sticks too, and it might be a 50 cal, you know, or an AK. I mean, so everybody should have that right to carry whatever they want to carry, because we have the right to protect ourselves no matter what, you know, from anybody. And it doesn't make no difference of what you're carrying. You know, you're still a tribal member and you invade somebody's privacy, you have the right to shoot. So that's, you know, I mean, there's a lot of work to this, I'll tell you that, and you know, and I plan on being here for the next meeting, you know, because I want to hear a lot of the comments that everybody else has, because they all have the right to, you know. So I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you.
Thank you. So there's he brought up a couple comments there. Once again, this is like a document that is extremely one-sided, so we want to come back and make something work for us. One question that he brought up, open or carry. Is anyone opposed to having an open carry versus just a permit?
Open carry should be legal.
Is what?
Should be legal.
Legal, yeah.
Not prohibited or restricted, not defining firearms that are restricted to be, none of that should happen, just
open carry.
open carry.
Then the other one is, since you look at other documents out there, and I think there's probably got to be in this one, I read somewhere in there in the 60-some pages. Are there any places on the reservation that you feel you should not be able to conceal carry or open carry? Such as, like, they would say the Capitol, like you can't go to the Capitol unless you have an enhanced carry. So would you say that in the Capitol you can't, in Rosebud right here, you can't carry? Or how about the courts, or like a church or ceremonial grounds?
I think that's already listed right now.
I was gonna say, this needs to be defined for them, you know,
We
like
just-
this here, not necessarily Rose, let's say, as a
Rosebud
gas,
doesn't have it.
but I say, but, you know, the council chambers, police department, courtrooms, hospitals, stuff of that nature. I wouldn't want to get in trouble for having guns. Yeah, schools, absolutely. But I wouldn't want to get in trouble for having a handgun on my hip, going out here to elk country to shed hunt, knowing that there could be rattlesnakes out there or whatever else. I pass by here on the street and I get pulled over. Now I'm a bad guy for carrying a pistol on my hip. You know what I mean? So there should be an open carry to an extent, but more defined laws on where to open carry.
Right. So like, I think right now what you meant was like at courts you can't carry already. That's in there.
There's specific places that you can carry. I know Pam highlighted those to me a while back, but it's just the places that he just named. I guess I don't have a problem with people having guns. In my position, we want to know what people can't have guns. That's what we need to define today and figure that out.
I'll ask you.
Because that's what got us here. I mean, it's people shooting guns off in the community. I mean, Melinda calls me once a week from Antelope. St. Francis, same way. Parmalee starting to pick up that way. The smaller communities, you don't really hear that.
Police reports or data to back up your claim?
Yes.
Yep.
If you ever came to judiciary, you see reports.
We give
all
our
the time.
reports every month, and
Yeah.
if you, right now, they're posted on our page if you wanna look at them.
You posted your calls to service. But yeah, that's just what we're looking at. We want everything right now as much as we can, because we have a good showing. So then later on, when we start having another document, it's just working. It's not gonna be one and done. Like Melinda said, it makes sense. You wanna go to the community center. You wanna have more meetings. It's not just, one and done. So I mean, that's why I threw that out there, because I know it's somewhere in the document, like the Capitol, the courts, church, hospital. But then maybe we put that out there and then we get more feedback and says, well, I don't have a problem with the hospital. So we'll knock that off, and then it starts over again.
Just another topic of discussion that's in that document is dealing with non-members. I mean, we're dictating to our own people, but we don't have a say over non-members. And there's a lot of them here, they're all heavy carriers, just like most of us are. But, you're taking from us, but there's no ramifications for them. We don't have that authority. The sheriff does, unless it involves a tribal member, then we'll get involved, but we don't have that jurisdiction over there. And there's a couple different points in that document that kind of dictate that need to be taken out.
Would that go federal then if it was a non-member? That would be,
depending on the crime.
I'm sorry, I was wondering if it was a non-member that you'd have to dictate what they would be on a federal crime that would be.
And it differs from county to county. Like Todd County, we have jurisdiction over that, but Millette County is a little different. Tripp County, Boulder County, it's all different.
Another thing I was thinking about is that when you said nobody in the school be able to carry a gun, I think they should have somebody in that school that can.
We have school resource officers that
That's
do
what I
it.
think that should be in there, that there will be exceptions to it, like to a school. I think they should have somebody in there that does carry.
This document doesn't even exempt law enforcement from carrying ARs, which we carry. We carry tasers. My daughter carries a taser, and my daughter carries a handgun. I mean, and it's for protection. There's a lot of discussing that needs to happen before anything's passed. And I know they say a couple meetings, but I see it going on for a year.
It could be years.
Yeah.
But you gotta have it first. You gotta start the dialogue. Because the other thing that Steve's not really touching on either is it was never afforded, Bob or Ivor, I don't know if you guys ever knew this or whatever, but it was never afforded to tribal members ever that not everything is a felony. And only 2 times I've seen in the last 10 years did they ever use a felony charge get busted down to a federal misdemeanor. And then it wasn't until we were in negotiations with the feds and the state over Page Law did all of a sudden, that guy came from, it's a different guy now, he came from FBI, and he was sitting there with Marty Jackley, and then all of a sudden he said, oh, well, you guys have an event up at Page Law, it's in trust now. You guys handle all tribal members, the feds handle all non-members, and we have an actual misdemeanor code, and we can use that, and then kind of sat there and checked him out and was like, what is that, just for non-members? And then he's like, oh no, we can use it for tribal members too. And then I said, well, that's just interesting, because every Indian that ever goes north, they always come back a felon. They never bust it down for them to be just a misdemeanor. And then I said, so how many times do we use that on our own Indians? And I said, and he's like, And that was all it was. And then literally they passed out the code and everything. I have no idea why every Indian that goes up there either doesn't get kicked back to tribal court, or it doesn't end up just being like a downplayed to a misdemeanor. But if you don't have anything to say you guys are governing, then that's what they'll do. They'll flex on the Indian, and then next thing you know, the Indian's a felon, and they love doing it.
They'll do it without consent too.
Exactly. So that's why we want to I mean, it doesn't, you don't wanna, I mean, I hate to say it, we're controlling our own, you know, down to the point. But if we don't have control, then we can't ever say we have jurisdiction over ourselves. And that's where we need to be. So anyway, everybody's cool with open carry, making sure it's added to the document. The different carrying places I wrote down were Capitol Courts, Church, Ceremonial Grounds, Hospital, but then that can all change. Those are just the talking points for right now. Anyone else
So you
want to
guys
say
already
something?
have it listed under 511, 116. You already got all those places, but instead of it under that number 10 of Wachipis, I think you should probably just take that out and put like large gatherings, places of large gatherings instead of Wachipis, because even though we have powwows that are large, we still have, during the fair, we have the carnival that happens, we have the rodeo that happens. In these communities, they have their annual powwows going on inside them. Sometimes they have memorial walks, sometimes they have other events that it becomes a large gathering. So I think you should just strike off that Wachipis and just put inside there the large places of large gathering.
What is a large gathering? How many people?
Well, what's a game?
Game people choose.
Okay, so then I guess if it's more than 2 to 5 people, then I guess it's considered a large gathering because
Can't even go visit.
you can't even. Well, you can make it 10 if you want.
Well, that's all I'm asking.
That's all
I mean,
I'm asking,
it's-
so we gotta
a
have
large
a starting
gathering
point.
could comprise of.
Yeah, well, look at a Wachipi, look at a basketball game, look at a football game. You have all large numbers, so it
50?
could be 20 or more.
Just put RS established.
As established.
I would say don't go down that path. I say that because there's information from intelligence companies that tribal council should be using about extremist groups that are targeting people of color. I'll give you an example. In North Carolina, they had a shooting not too long ago in Walmart. A fellow just walked in with the AR-15 and started killing everybody of color. No non-colors were killed. So I would say don't go down that path, especially like with these gun-free zones. I think every mass shooting that we've had in American public history took place in gun-free zones.
They took place in gun-free zones. Should almost happen at Walmart and Rapids. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think Ben, back right there. I just want to say, I mean, this is, I guess I haven't heard this, just like 2 days ago. So, have you guys put it out in the communities? I mean, now with the podcast, it should be out there on Facebook, putting this out there, giving it to the people what's going on. The other thing too is that all these public places that we're talking about, there should be someone here with a gun anyways. Police officer, no security, something like that. So that way we won't have to carry a gun in that area. But at the same time too, yeah, with these mass shootings, there's a lot of issues for how the cops gonna react. Are they gonna take off their way? So these are things that, you know, again, protecting our welfare, our well-being, especially our community and families. So that's just my take on it, that this should have been like 2 months ago. If you're already talking about it, you should have been in the communities, you should have been in the communities, you should have been in the last house rather than just automatically sprayed on it. Everybody's saying, hey, take away your guns. What the heck? Take away your guns. What's going on? You take away your teaser? It's not out there. I was in the military, veterans, I went to the war. A gun protected me when I was in war. You can't kill someone. So again, I'm coming back here to protect my family, myself. So now I'm kind of shocked. But if it's just a formality, just a draft, then put it out to the people before you bring it here to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have control over everybody. So I think you need to be out, put out there in the community.
Everything has to be here first.
But I mean, still, you got to be out there in the communities.
We're going for years probably.
And you're not going to tell people what's going to happen. You got more people are here to say, hey, you're taking away our guns, man. I'm going to fight you for it. I'm going to say, hey, you're going to kill me.
Nobody's taking your guns.
But no, that's what I'm saying. See, when it was out there, nobody's telling us this. Nobody's telling us what's going on out there. They're just putting it out there in writing and saying, this is what's going to happen. Whoa, there's more to it than that. Well, then put it out there. There's Facebook. There's the radio. Put it out there. Get out there and start letting the people know. So that was my take on it. So
We're on air right now.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, we need to put it out to the people, because I'm sure there's more people out there who are concerned to find out, whoa, they're going to take away the guns from the tribe, so what they can do, what they find out, who is doing this? Why are they doing this? What's the purpose of this? There's no answers out there. Nobody's telling nobody anything. just, saying, hey, well, let's go out there and speak our mind. Yeah, let's go do this. So I think that getting out there, letting the public know about what's going on, why you're doing this, for what reason, who's doing this, who brought this up, from the state level, federal level, all this stuff needs to be put in play there, so at least we have an idea. So if you get some information about what's being needed here, then put it out there. So yeah, I'm just kind of concerned about, that. If it's just a draft of what we're doing, then yes, that's it.
No law is immediately gonna be passed, but there's never been a weapons code, so technically, you could get charged for carrying right now, if you had one. So that's why we have to develop one, so that there isn't any problem in the future. Alvin, what's the floor?
I need to go, you guys, pretty quick, so that's why I need to talk. I'm really interested in what you guys are saying, what's going on out there. I see it happening every day in every community. I see the seriousness of what's going on. I get the repercussions of after what the police do, who they can't find, who they do find. I get people into court, and I see everything escalating to a place where we can't turn back and we can't turn around. So I see why they're doing this with the gun laws. But there's a way we could really break it down real fast. There's stuff already in place that we could just put aside and bring up all the new stuff about taking the guns, the permits, everything. Bring up all the new stuff. We can cover that real quick right here. But I can't. I gotta go serve a protection order right now. Another thing, I don't want no one to take my gun, okay? I get threatened every day. I mean, just about every day, more than once. Gonna come out to my house, gonna kill me and my family. I'm surprised I haven't got stabbed, shot, or beat the hell up yet. And what I see out there is getting crazy. I knew people that I knew for years. They'll blow up on me and want to fight me right then and there because they're on that. And I can tell you right now, I know where the drugs are coming from, a lot of them, and I have told the CIs a lot of times, and I should tell them more. And exactly the laws that are being broke out there when I'm out there and seeing it. But I don't have the time to do a report every time. I gotta get done what I gotta get done at the courthouse, okay? The main thing is, I'm not taking my gun, I'm carrying. I never did ever in the past, except for this past year. I see the seriousness of things getting out of hand. And trust me, you guys, I see it every day. I know you guys see what's going on in your community, hear your gunshots at night. But I feel it the next day. I see blood on the door where I have to go serve a protection order on the guy who beat his woman up because they can't find him, and I have to go in that house and find him the next day. And all these other felons that I know that this law has to apply to. Put the harsh penalty, put them in for a year or two if they get caught with a firearm. There's a lot of felons that get out that I'm looking for right now that should still be in that jail. And they're breaking laws this right now. I know they're and I hear it. And a lot of times I go serve a paper and I see people gather and I know they're selling drugs. And I tell you guys, but there's nothing you can do. Until it actually happens to get enough evidence to go get it. All right, we're gonna register our guns. Okay, all of us guys here with legal guns are gonna go register our guns. Okay, and where honestly the crime happens, it's a gun that no one knows about. That's where that gun's gonna come from. Not with our serial numbers on it, unless they take it from us and shoot it. Like someone takes a gun from me that's registered to me and shoots me. That's the only reason why, you would get something like that. But damn, if anyone's gonna take my gun, and I'm gonna be carrying all the time, I have to. Because I'm way out in the middle of nowhere, where no cop's gonna know where I'm at. That's why I always tell the clerks where I'm at. If I don't come back or whatever, I'm going along the river road. Look for my body down there, or my car. And that's the truth of it. It's scary out there. And I never, ever been scared before, and I am now. And I can't emphasize how much I'm scared. I'm scared for my partner. She knows when the guy's gonna blow up or gonna come after me. A lot of them are mental health now. I have to serve them, and they're ready to blow up on me. The other day I had an officer come with me because I thought it was the guy, because everyone's wearing masks anymore. and you don't know who's who. It's the wrong person, but I later found that guy 2 days later, and he snapped on me before. And when I was walking away, he's coming behind me. Am I gonna get it in the back? You know, that's the way a lot of us feel here, especially leaving the tribal building after a hot session. A lot of you cops too get threatened. You don't know if they're gonna wait at your home. You know, they say, relatives say, I know where you live. I want them to come out if they can get past the Rottweilers. But, you know, it just, all we gotta do is cover the changes in there. I've seen a lot of changes that my red flag went up like this. And you guys all seen them? Take your, you know, over 10 rounds.
Yeah.
You need that. I mean, if someone's gonna shoot at you, you know, it's ridiculous. A lot of that stuff's totally ridiculous. And I bet you the people who wrote this don't live here on the reservation. I know a lot of these families can't even afford food, let alone buying a gun. And it's kind of ridiculous. A lot of things, I could emphasize a lot of stuff, and I will in the future meetings, and I'll write it up and submit it here to you guys. Thank you guys. I gotta go.
Link, can you allow the author of this document to introduce herself, but don't tar and feather?
I can't do nothing. I even been taking self-defense classes, you know, which I never did before. Even though I'm already, it's just a refresher to me. It's scary up there, guys. But you need to up it, I mean, so at least carry mace. I know the baton.
This is not a document, no. So whatever's there is there right now. It's not a document. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of us are scared too. Someone will be coming in that courthouse, hanging away, shooting away. What are we gonna do? Throw staplers at it? You know? Bullshit. I'm gonna be in the office with a gun. You know? I'm gonna stop something before it starts. All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, Al.
Gotta go.
Between he's going.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I was just waving by to him.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. By way of introduction, my name is Victoria Lefthand. I am the assistant prosecutor here for the Rosebud Sioux Tribe, and that is my document. Before you guys get mad at me, please understand that this is just a draft. This is something that we are presenting to the community to get input. It has not even been vetted by any committees. Council hasn't looked at it. We want input. That is, we're hoping to have more than one of these meetings. We actually need more than that. So I was initially asked to put together a document back in, I think it was 2021. I worked on this for a year. I have not touched it in a year. Something that could be brought forward, because as we have now, we have minimal regulations. And given the day and age and the climate of this country, you know, tribal council felt that we needed to strengthen our gun laws, protect our communities, protect our people. So anyway, like I said, I am the author. Please do not hang me. I'm here to take comments, criticism, constructive criticism, make notes, and to redraft. You know, this is a working document. So please do not think that your laws are going to change tonight, from what I heard, because they're not going to. That is impossible to pass a law like this. So anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself, and that's it. Thank you.
Vicky, why did you come up with this? Why didn't you try to adopt that Florida law?
Well, because South Dakota has next to no regulations, and it's very difficult to, you know, we're sovereign. Anyway, that was it. You know, we looked at the federal laws, we looked at states, we looked at tribal laws, and these were some of the ones that we put forward.
We're being told that we need to try to wrap this up because we're exceeding the COVID protocols, and that there was somebody that was excluded out because they were a direct contact, so we need to wrap it up. Hold on a second.
I just wanted to ask her a question. When you drafted this document, did you take into consideration, as we're a sovereign nation here, did you take into consideration our high missing and murdered and women numbers? Do you know how many veterans live here on Rosebud, and how many wars and veterans we have that are still living today, and that might affect them? And did you take into consideration we have our own veterans cemetery, and that's an honor that our veterans do for a fallen relative when they're burying them? Is the 401 shop number, I think? That was just my question. Any of that into consideration?
When you guys have another meeting like this, you guys gonna advertise it so everybody knows?
Yes.
And then you do it in, go to a bigger venue like
the multi-purpose. And we need, if people can, if you can't put an email, if you don't have one, could you please put a phone number so we can like maybe text or call you so we can continue to have these meetings?
They want to get on the firearms and stuff like that. They ought to get on all these guys packing these big knives around. You're more apt to get knifed than you are shot here.
And anybody who hasn't signed in, can you please sign in?
And one other thing, most of us that carry concealed permits, we go through an extensive background check.
But there isn't one, that's what we explained earlier, Daryl. There isn't one with the tribe, and so technically that has no reciprocity. So literally, you can get charged if you're carrying something, and even though you have a state one. So I mean, one person did say, they sent me a text and they turned it. Why don't we just start adopting a lot of South Dakota states except for the enhancement? So that's another thing that needs to be looked at for comparability.
I guess last comment, I think it might be able to go back to everybody before we leave, let's, I know you probably did a lot of work on this, you know what, thank you very much, but what it's gonna come down to, it's gonna take this back to our communities, and just let the people vote. After you get all this all drafted up to the final one, let's let the people vote. If the people don't want it, and they have their council rep come to this chamber and say, no, my community voted against it, we don't even want this. Let's let that happen. Because remember, like Bob said, these guys work for us. So they gotta do what we ask them to do. Not what they wanna do. Control. Back to control. So let's take, after you guys get it all final draft and everything, have our few meetings, you know what? Let's all take it all back to the communities. The communities vote, nope, we don't want it. Then you know what? It has to pass this council. It has to pass. Because other than that, you're not working for the people. I thank you guys for listening, appreciate it.
Hey, Wayne, our governor of South Dakota says we ain't gonna abide by anything Joe Biden wrote up, and that's an exact copy and paste of what he has doing. Thankfully, Jamie Smith.
That's not what we're gonna adapt though. We have to make our own.
Well, let's just go off South Dakota, so it's better than that.
This is just a talking one. This is just a example.
I know everybody's had a chance to talk, but I'd like to have a little.
Yeah, you haven't had
before everybody wraps up. First off, I would like to say that this entire hearing is incorrect. It's not following process. You guys are supposed to publish an ad in a newspaper. It says that in our ordinance. It says it in our bylaws.
Only
so
if it's going to pass.
This entire hearing is invalid.
We're not going to pass anything though.
It's still a hearing. It's still a public hearing. You have to abide by our ordinances and our constitution and our bylaws. You have to publish this in a newspaper. None of this will like I'm taking on record today. It can't be taken. So to begin with, that's where I'm coming from. Based off what I've seen with the marijuana ordinance, when this meeting finishes, none of this is going to go back to council. And in fact, what I've seen before, you guys will take this to council, not bring anything, and then pass the law.
So we literally had 3 days on Facebook for the entire public to respond, but you guys have been working on this for an entire year. That's my first problem, is you're violating our own laws and our own ordinances. I have questions for you. Why did you decide to ban all our weapons, 90% of the weapons on the reservation? While your legislation, but I've looked at, I've noticed that you copy and pasted some things. Why? Why were you talking about, you mentioned sovereignty, why didn't you use any of that ideal to structure this law? Because everything I've read in this, verbatim, everything in red that's proposed needs to be gutted. All this needs to stop. What needs to happen first is everybody needs, it needs to be brought up at the community. The communities need to talk about this first. They need to be the ones bringing up, hey, we need to do this, we should look into this. Not council saying, hey, let's go do this and impose it on people. So, I can go into detail, like I'll ask the first thing I ask, like it says select fire. Most people in here understand what select fire is, but what it's worded in this legislation, this proposed legislation, includes semi-automatic. Now you either have a safe and a semi-automatic, which is a semi-automatic firearm, and by legal definition, you also have select fire, which means you go from safe to burst or safe to fully automatic. Yet we have it worded in our law, select fire weapons are all semi-automatic weapons. And then they gave a list of rifles that include certain attachments and certain requirements or certain definitions for pistols, like it had to weigh over 590 grams, it couldn't weigh over that. Where did those come from? That bans almost every firearm that we own. And I can rip into this piece by piece by piece. So what that needs to happen is this document, it needs to be ceased in place. It needs to stop totally. Take it to the communities. Tell them what you think about this weapon stuff, Bring out actual facts, like actual reports. When I'm talking about this call for service report that law enforcement likes to manufacture, you'll see on this call for service, there's matching identical elements, considered separate elements. So who's decided to go through these calls and say, okay, this one is a gun call, even though no officer responded. This one is a paper flew too far call, even though no officer responded. So who's taking these calls and deciding on a spreadsheet, okay, I'm gonna put this here, that this crime, even though this isn't a crime, I'm gonna put it here as somebody called in about a registration check that was done on them, because that's literally on your police reports. And the next thing we're kind of going towards is, I see where the spirit of this law is going, but I implore you to dig around, man. Since 2013, where have most firearm deaths come from? Where have most killings come from? Law enforcement. Law enforcement is the one that's killed us. Most gun violence is done by law enforcement on this reservation. And we don't get nothing but a 3-day notice. I mean, I'm willing to tell the council right now, nobody has said this, but you're not gonna take my guns. You can take them over my dead body, you can find me over here on my line. I'm not gonna let you guys pass this.
This is just a working session.
No, it's not.
It
It's
is.
a public hearing.
Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap it up, because, I mean, this is a working
Because
session
I'm
and,
expressing my free speech and coming to a public hearing to voice my concern, and you're interrupting me.
I am, because,
Thank you for displaying our government to us. I'll sit down and be quiet now. Thank you for displaying our government to us.
it's a working session. There's nothing that's going to come out of this and to be so extreme. We need to have a conversation.
Just a quick comment.
So there was,
Tako wo kawaji ven yote Lampota kina oishi Kina lampota kina ojula otaki Ohama tekia otaki aya hanga ko isha hekta ke aniuta Wachareta no kshihatash Taku washi tanu kihe Taku echu pita kihere Echanu kishelo Hechanu kishelo Which I mean, That was just a quick comment. My insurance company sent me a 3-page document in real small print, in legal size paper, explaining what they're gonna cover. And it was all in English. I read the whole thing through very carefully. I had a magnifying glass. At the end, I still didn't understand what the heck they were talking about. My native language is Lakota. If they had explained it to me in Lakota, it would be perfectly clear. It was in English, I couldn't understand the thing they were saying. So that's what I'm saying. If you guys are working for these people out here, there are still a lot of Lakota language speakers out there. It's their native language. Anything that's written in English goes completely over their head, especially that big. Do you have people that can go out there and cover every paragraph in this thing and explain it in Lakota? Do you have somebody like that?
Right.
If you didn't, you're not doing your job.
Yeah. It allows you to make sure you have.
There was an exposure, which is what we're trying to tell you guys, is that we need to wrap this up because there was an exposure, a COVID-19 exposure, and we need to clear out.
They were here for a while, but we got them to leave, and now we need to wrap it up.
I don't need that again.
Make sure it's not
Okay, thank everybody for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see you.
Next one we'll have dinner will probably be at the multi-purpose center.
All right, we're gonna take roll call. Sorry, Russell Engelman. Lisa Whitehead. Steve Graham. Here. Stanley Winneman. Hello. Vanessa Redhausen. Here. Michael Winneman. Here. Fremont Ellis. Here. Sunil Blackfeather. Bill Marshall. Here. Wayne Bennett. Eileen Shaw. Martha Bluefeather. Sherry Redgreen. Here. Norman Running Senior. Kamala Kilwater. Here. David Williams. Here. Dan Ryan. Donald Holland. Noise Cottington. Nope. Saying here last time. And we have a quorum. We want to hate to pick on you all the time, but can you do an invocation? Thank you. You want to present the Senate of approximately, amen. Let's go back to my cousin, yeah, to pay to why he kana tumbashwa nchini kaya kuuza timu pila hecha tukashwa hecha akubicho kujiona kasikia ndio tukashwa na wewe ndio tukake bwana